somebody booked Terrance McKinney versus the Ghost Pepper Erick Gonzalez, and we have to talk about it. So, listen, this is going to be one of the weirder videos from Fight Night Picks because I'm going to open the curtain, let you in on a little bit inside baseball. We do these videos, we look at the rankings. They don't really mean a whole heck of a lot because, let's face it, I mean, they just throw numbers out there. I know it's aggregated based on what the media does, but it doesn't really mean a whole heck of a lot. It's used to sell a fight. But I do kind of like some of those ranking aggregates that are out there, so I can let that tell a little bit of a story. So I did my deep dive on this fight. Terrance McKinney on Tapology is ranked as their 34th lightweight, and that includes all the different organizations, Bellator, KSW, Cage Warriors. Terrance McKinney slots in at number 34. Erick Gonzalez slots in at 136. There's a big disparity between them. Fight Matrix also has these guys ranked. Now, Terrance McKinney is ranked very low on that website. He's ranked at 128, so around that Erick Gonzalez ranking. Erick Gonzalez is ranked 238th. So 128 and 238. Matt, the disparity between these guys is huge. The only reason why this is a fun fight is because they both can tend to brawl, and that's what gives Erick Gonzalez an opportunity in this one.
I was thinking it's going to be really interesting to see how Terrance McKinney comes back after taking quite a bit of damage in his last fight. That's the thing. We all remember the fight of the night because it was back and forth with him and Drew Dober, but McKinney did eat a lot of big shots from Dober, especially near the end of that fight. You rarely lose by TKO and not eat big shots, but still, Terrance McKinney did absorb quite a bit of damage in that matchup, so I'm a little curious to see how he bounces back after a fight like that. We've seen a lot of fighters take a lot of damage and then come back as different versions of themselves, but the difference is between McKinney and all those other fighters. Let's bring up like Alexander Gustafsson, for instance, a guy who had a long career taking damage, took time off, came back, didn't look very good. Well, Terrance McKinney's only 27 years old in the prime of his career, and let's be honest, up until that Drew Dober fight, at least in his UFC tenure, looked as good as any prospect had looked up until that point. For Ghost Pepper Gonzalez, like you said, he does invite the brawl, so I do think this fight's going to be very fun for as long as it lasts, but Terrance McKinney can brawl and be that sort of meathead in a game plan, but he's also very technical with his own boxing on the outside, and the thing that I do like from McKinney is, you would talk about how not every fighter uses their reach equally with Stephanie Egger, Mayra, Bueno, Silva. Terrance McKinney does use his reach quite effectively until some fighters can get on the inside. Now, he was able to light Drew Dober up from the outside as Drew Dober was trying to close distance and get close to him. The difference is, Drew Dober is one of the better lightweights in the world. I think we can all agree on that. And Erick Gonzalez is not, I don't think. And I just don't think Gonzalez is able to eat the big power shots to then have success afterwards. Because Terrance McKinney brings a big storm into the octagon. And I haven't even mentioned his wrestling once, which, let's be honest, is a pretty big part of his game.
High school state champion wrestler in Washington. He went to wrestle in D2. Obviously, that's kind of where the life story changes. You've seen the promos by the UFC. You saw it before Dana White's Contender Series, the individual videos. He stuck with wrestling. He went to Notre Dame, and then he left Notre Dame to become an MMA fighter. But you look at the losses for both these two guys, and they're telling because both guys have losses to good fighters. It's not just Terrance McKinney, it's Erick Gonzalez as well. But for McKinney, loses to Sean Woodson on Dana White's Contender Series, beating him in the first round. In the second round, competitive. Gets up from the takedown, eats a knee for his troubles, gets finished. Takes on Darrick Minner the next fight, goes to take him down. Gets into a submission.
It's going to happen fighting Darrick Minner, though.
Takes on Drew Dober, drops him twice. The flying knees that landed Dober back. He's trying to finish him. He gets a couple takedowns and then ultimately kind of slowed down a little bit, and that's where Dober was able to take over with his own offense. And then the one other loss that Terrance McKinney has to Henderson, it's due to a leg injury. So it's all with a little bit of grain of salt. Like Jason Jackson hurt his leg on Contender Series, and that's why he's not fighting in the UFC, and he's with Bellator, and he's going to be fighting for a title, or he has the interim title. When you look at it for McKinney, all those things are true. When you look at it for Erick Gonzalez, the losses to Jim Miller, the winningest fighter in UFC history, a loss to Humberto Bandenay, and a loss to Rafa Garcia over with Combate. Now, there are 3 other losses out there, and they're to lesser fighters. But if you look at it for Ghost Pepper, decent offensive wrestling, not the greatest takedown defense, good at brawling, is hittable. You saw that in the last fight against Jim Miller. The old lefty cold cocked him and knocked him out cold.
And we love Jim Miller on this channel. He's old, yeah. He's been around forever. A 40-year-old Jim Miller's not the biggest knockout puncher in the world.
Especially now he is.
Okay, yeah, the second he hit 40, he got like the might of Zeus in his hands, but still, Terrance McKinney is a whole hell of a lot more heavy-handed than Jim Miller is at this stage of his career. career. Really, the question for me is, where does Terrance McKinney go after this fight? And we never mentioned this before the show started. Do you think he is on a crash course for Paddy Pimblett, though? I feel like that was out there in the media for a long time. Those guys are going back and forth on Twitter. I feel like that could be a logical next step for both of them, because for McKinney, he had his chance to go up there and fight one of the better fighters. Kind of his gatekeeper into the top 15 was Drew Dober. Paddy Pimblett is looking for a big fight. It just, to me, it does feel like if McKinney is able to get the win this weekend, that would be a logical next step for both athletes.
Yeah, I use the example just there, like I did on the weekend. Like Mike Napoli, that one in 2013, put it up on a tee, hit that one out of the park, make that fight, because I think this is one of those ones, it feels like a setup fight. It really does. And it's unfortunate for Erick Gonzalez. He was originally supposed to take on Devontae Smith this past spring. Would have been another interesting fight, but he was out of that one due to a foot injury. I dug into it. I listened to an interview from a couple of weeks ago from James Lynch MMA, and in that one, he said that an up kick in training, he threw an up kick against his teammate. The teammate wasn't wearing a mouth guard. The teeth went into the foot like Gerard Gordeau, Taylor Tooley. So it was a deep cut. He had to get stitches. The nerves got hurt. And so he's had to take some time off. He had to take 3 weeks off of training. And now he's been back in it. So he's ready for a fight against Terrance McKinney. That was quite a while ago, like early this year. So I'm not worried about it affecting this fight. But you look at the odds. No play. Terrance McKinney open to -400, -944 on best fight odds for Gonzalez. Open +300, +589. You can find him on Twitch. He's always on Twitch. If you look at it over on Topology, the votes are a surprise to us, the RDU, and I honestly don't know what this was. I'm going to say over under 90% McKinney. It's probably over.
It's over 90.
It's 98% of 1,119 total votes. 84% by knockout for the 2% that have Ghost Pepper. 48% by knockout. I think if Gonzalez wins, it's probably going to be by finish. Both these guys are down to bang. I've got McKinney. There's always a chance that Gonzalez could catch him because both guys will brawl. It's not the most technical boxing. I do like McKinney, like you said, those long-range pawing attacks, but his wrestling's so good. If he wrestles and then finishes Gonzalez, I feel like that's a way that pop goes a weasel, you fight Paddy Pimblett.
That's how I think this fight's going to go. I think McKinney will strike for a little bit. We'll see about 90 seconds of action. He's going to shoot for a takedown and land some ground and pound, probably. That's how I see this fight going. It should be as fun as it really can be for as long as it lasts, because, like I said, Gonzalez is down to bang, but against Terrance McKinney, that's probably not your best path to victory, so I have Terrance McKinney, but again, I'm much more curious to see where this puts Terrance McKinney in the future than the fight itself.
-900, too rich for my blood. Both of us going with T.Wrecks, Terrance McKinney to get the win. Let us know down below if you're Erick Gonzalez or one of his friends, family, or training partners. We have a big-time fight coming up this weekend in the main event. Thiago Santos taking on Jamal Hill. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
let's get into it.